Peaceful village at the foot of the mountain. In the north of Vietnam, nestled next to the Truc Lam mountain range covered in clouds all year round, there is a small village called Bin An. The name of the village is like a wish, an aspiration, and also a reality. This place is peaceful all year round. The people live harmoniously, simply and extremely hospitable. The road leading to the village is not big, just a red dirt path. On both sides are old bamboo rows whispering in the wind, leading visitors to a world of peace. Every morning in Bin An village starts very early. When the fog was still covering a thin layer on the thatched roofs, when the grass along the road was still wet with crystal-like dewdrops, the first sound of life rang out in the village, the rooster crowing loudly, echoing through each layer of mountain. From the thatched roof house on the edge of the village, Mr. Lamb, an old farmer in his 60s, woke up. He sat up in the thin smoke of kitchen smoke emanating from the lower house, where Mrs. Hoa, his wife, was building a fire to cook a pot of breakfast rice with dry straw. Breakfast in Bin An village is nothing fancy, just white rice with braised fish from yesterday, plus a bowl of spicy chili fish sauce. But in the cold of the morning, everything becomes unusually delicious. Mr. Lamb carried the hoe and crowbar, called his two grandchildren, and then went to the field together. The trail leading from the village to the fields winds through rolling hills, past bamboo bushes, past fish ponds and dense banana groves. The morning dew has not yet completely dissipated, covering the grass bushes and rice leaves with a thin layer. The field appears before your eyes, a giant natural picture stretching to the horizon. The terraced fields were like steps from heaven, at that time wearing a gentle green color. The field water is clear, reflecting the bright sky. There is a white stork walking slowly on the edge of the field, and in the distance, the sound of birds chirping on bamboo branches blends with the gurgling sound of water from the small ditch that brings water from the stream. Bin An people were present in large numbers in the fields. Everyone wears conical hats, brown or green baba shirts, hands rolled up, and bare feet wading in the water. There was the sound of people laughing and talking, the sound of buffaloes breathing, and the sound of rice rustling as the breeze blew. Each person has a job to do. No one pushes anyone else, but it's all hands on deck. One is planting, one is pulling seedlings, one is weeding the field edges. Ms. Hang, a young woman living near the village communal house, was planting rice when she suddenly burst out laughing. Mr. Tu planted the rows in the wrong row today. Tomorrow the rice will grow into a winding snake shape. Everyone laughed, but Tu could only scratch his head and laugh. Here, people tease each other like that to make the working day less tiring and burdensome. After laughing, he put his face down in the field and continued his work. Noon came when the sun was high, the whole field glowed with a light yellow color, and the villagers took a break. They sat on dry mounds, opened rice balls, pickles, and some grilled dried fish to take with them. Everyone used the same old aluminum kettle for drinking water, pouring it into a chipped glass. However, no one criticized it. After eating, he lay down on the edge of the field, covered his face with a hat, and listened to the rustling sound of the wind. In the afternoon, when the sun begins to disappear behind the mountains, the whole field is covered with a layer of golden light. The cold wind of early winter blows, bringing with it the scent of soil, water, and the smell of new rice. The villagers packed up their farming tools, took the buffalo home, and the children ran behind and played, threw handfuls of wet mud at each other, and laughed. On the way back to the village, Mr. Lamb stopped to look at the fields again. In his eyes was satisfaction, because the field had been well cared for, the seedlings had sprouted evenly, and this season would definitely be successful. He turned to his two grandchildren. Children, people can be rich because of gold, but our people can live thanks to rice grains. We must love the fields and land like we love our flesh and blood. The two children nodded, their eyes sparkling, not understanding all of his words, but feeling something very profound. In Bin An village, people love each other like people in a big family. No one is rich, no one is poor enough to starve, because whoever has more will share with those who have less. Living in the open nature, people's hearts are as open as those vast fields. At the end of the village, right under a 100-year-old banyan tree, There is a small house with yin and yang tile roofs and earthen walls that have turned yellow. That is the house of Mr. Nam Tu, the oldest person in the village. He is over 90 this year. His back is hunched. His beard and hair are as white as ice. But his eyes are still bright and his voice is still resonant. Mr. Nam used to be a stonecutter and participated in building Binyan Communal House in the years before the revolution. Every afternoon, the children in the village would rush to the old man's yard to sit huddled under the banyan tree to listen to him tell stories. Fairy tales, ghost stories, stories of river gods and mountain gods protecting the village from invaders, and stories of years of famine that the villagers still resiliently survived. He told in a slow, gentle voice, occasionally coughing, then took a sip of tea from a chipped ceramic cup, and then continued. The children, even after hearing the same story dozens of times, still never get bored, because in each of his words, there is something very warm, like the steam of the earth, like the smell of kitchen smoke from home. One day he told about a god guarding the Truk Lam mountain range behind the village. In the past, the people of our village lived on alluvium brought back from streams, but they were often swept away by floodwaters. One day, heaven sent a dragon down to transform into that mountain range, blocking the village from the evil water. Since then, the land has been fertile, and our people can safely cultivate. The children widened their eyes, imagining the image of a giant dragon curled up in the blue sky. Mr. Nam smiled crookedly and nodded. So remember, this land is very sacred. You must respect it. And so, night after night, the memories of the whole village are passed down through the old man's simple words. Right at the entrance to the village, under the canopy of an old tamarind tree, there is a small water shop made of bamboo and with a simple thatched roof. That's Miss Hughes' shop, a woman in her late 40s with a cheerful personality and quick conversation.
The whole village laughed. The children, not knowing whether it was because they were happy or because of the sun, had red cheeks and ate 2 or 3 rice balls. That meal is not only to fill the stomach, but also an opportunity for people to tell stories about the seasons, discuss weddings, death anniversaries, or simply ask each other a few questions about health and fields. Every year, on the full moon day of January, villagers organize a harvest festival at the village communal house. Since the previous afternoon, every house has been busy preparing. People making ban chung and ban tet, people preparing ceremony trays, people practicing lion and dragon dances. On festival night, the whole village is lit up with torchlight. Lion drums are bustling, children wear new red clothes, follow their parents and grandparents to carry lanterns from the village communal house to the stream bank. People let flower lanterns float on the clear water, praying for a good harvest, a happy home, and favorable weather and wind. Ms. Hugh had the opportunity to sell cakes and fruits, and Mr. Nam was invited to tell the village's sacred stories to the whole hall. When the moon rises high, illuminating the vast fields, the villagers hold hands and dance and sing around the communal houseyard. No one told anyone, but everyone knew the words to the old folk songs, which resonated naturally and warmly. The sound of festival drums, laughter, and bustling voices echoed far away to the foot of Truk Lam Mountain, as if connecting heaven and earth, people and nature in an endless harmony. People of Bin'an value their guests more than their property. Whenever there are strangers coming to the village, whether they are traders, wandering tourists, or distant relatives, they are always invited to eat and drink. It is not uncommon for a traveler to lose his way, and as soon as he reached the village, someone called back, "Come inside my house and drink a cup of hot tea first." If anyone nods, not only will they drink water, but they will also be able to eat rice, hear village and mountain stories, and even be taken around the village like a relative returning after a long time. One time, a young engineer from the city came to survey land for an irrigation project. At first he was hesitant, worried that people would be upset. But after just one afternoon sitting at Ms. Hughes' shop, drinking a cup of tea, listening to stories, he was completely drawn into the peaceful pace of life and the warm love of the villagers. When the work ended, he regretfully said goodbye to the village. Relatives came to the bus station to see him off, putting all sorts of things into his hands: packages of green rice, bags of roasted peanuts, jars of wild honey, and countless heartwarming words of advice. When you're free, come play again. And in everyone's eyes, there was a light of sincere joy, without calculation. Every day in Bin An passes slowly like a gurgling stream at the foot of the mountain. No rush, no hustle and bustle, just bright faces, calloused hands, and hearts open like fields in the wind. At night, when the whole village falls asleep, there are only the sounds of insects and the wind blowing through the old bamboo bushes. A faint scent of young rice, new soil, and kitchen smoke still lingers in the air. In a small house at the end of the village, Mr. Nam Tu sat on the porch, sipping tea at the end of the day, his hazy eyes looking far into the vast fields under the moonlight. His shadow fell long on the ground, blending into the shadow of the ancient banyan tree, like an inseparable part of the village. Somewhere, the sound of buffalo bells ringing loudly, interspersed with the sounds of dogs barking aimlessly. A day of hard work ends, preparing for a new day that is equally as diligent, also full of laughter, voices, and human love. Peaceful night, like a large blanket of clouds, wind, and soil, embraces each sparse house and each ordinary person. In their deep sleep, people dream of the harvest seasons, of the bustling village festivals, of the sacred mountain gods silently protecting this small piece of land. And so, in the rustling wind at the foot of the distant mountain, the story of a small village living on love, diligence, and hospitality continues to be written silently, like a song that never ends,